here's one that involves a same amount of discussion, but it involves Dana White blasting the MMAAA. So, Francis, we have to move forward from that, but we're going to be looking into bringing more and updates and follow-ups on the English football sex scandal story. For now, BBC, I think, has done a terrific job with the coverage so far. Yeah. So a quick shout-out to them. But in terms of the MMAAA, I did a video last week, a week and a half ago, about that groundbreaking announcement from Cerrone and Georges St. Pierre about the startup of an association that is similar but not identical to a fighters union. Dana White was pretty silent about this until he finally opened up on the UFC Unfiltered podcast, where he had a few quotes. 3 specifically in relation to Bjorn Rebney, who he refers to as Bjork, who was the founder of Bellator MMA and is now an advisor to the Mixed Martial Arts Athletes Association. Listen, I don't know enough about it to really speak on it. The only thing I need to know is the biggest scumbag in the history of combat sports, Bjork, is involved in this thing, continues to say. And if you're a fighter, listen, there's 3 unions out there now all battling against each other, and if you're a fighter, these guys are all looking to get in your pocket. It's another business. It's a business where guys are going to make money, and if you're a fighter and this is what you want to do, you've got to figure out whose hand you want in your pocket, and I guarantee you, you don't want Bjork's hand in your pocket. You know what I mean. And lastly, the one thing that I do know that came out of this thing is that this scumbag who knows nothing about our business, he says, yeah, only pay our fighters 8% of the revenue. I hope you're talking about Conor McGregor, okay? We're paying 8% of the revenue. You must mean Conor McGregor, right, Bjork? You stupid motherfucker. This says 2 things to me in terms of Dana White, and I'm curious if you agree. For one, it does, and if you listen to the podcast, it sounds slightly defensive, but it also sheds some light on, and this is what I was mentioning in the clip, is that Bjorn Rebney is a strange choice to have advising you, because he had some of the worst, and I mean the worst fighter contracts for Bellator. And they made the UFC contracts look like angelic gifts from the gods in terms of how much money they're getting paid. I'm not saying Bjorn Rebney can't change, and 10 years later that he's been able to maybe advise the Mixed Martial Arts Athletes Association. What I'm saying is it looks like a combination of Dana White getting very defensive over somebody who he's beaten, right? Like if we're going to compare Bellator to the UFC, nothing against the Bellator product. I think they've done a good job with what they've had, and they're actually poaching some fighters here and there. Yeah. But Bjorn's not part of Bellator anymore, and Dana White is looking into 2017 to have more growth and more big gains. So why is he so defensive, or does he really just not like this guy?
I think there's a combination of both. I think he might not like him. I mean, he clearly doesn't like him. But
he's such nice things, though. Like scumbag and motherfucker.
I think that Dana White is a little bit protective at the moment. He's protective of over his investment, his company that has, in a way, done exactly what they are set out to do. Growth in the financial sector. They're looking to continue to surpass all expectations. But with your growth, there's always going to be employees in any company that are going to look for raises, that are going to look to make more money. Conor McGregor, whether you want to admit it or not, he's starting a movement. He wants to be given his fair chunk out of this massive, massive cake that seems to be getting bigger and bigger and sweeter. And he's not going to settle for just his portion when you're bringing in a ridiculous amount of pay-per-view, a ridiculous amount of gate, whatever else, and he's not getting what he believes to be his share. So organizations are going to look to try and take advantage of that. They're going to fight for fighters to try and get their equal say. And if that means that there's going to be external advisors coming in and it's going to piss Dana White off, it's not. I don't think it's a case of the individual that's advising them. I just think it's the fact that this individual is getting in on another potential business investment that is going to take money away from Dana White. I think that's where his concern is. You could probably put in Christian Bale. I don't know why that came out, just in my head. If you put Batman in there to be an advisor for this union, then I don't think Dana White's going to like him either. I don't think he's going to like anyone that's going to be coming in to touch this thing, this machine that he's built that makes money for him.
Francis, it's laughable that it's either 8% or 53% is what these organizations are claiming they give their fighters. No. First of all, 53%? No.
There's no way.
Look, if you do the math yourself based on the gate, the pay-per-view buys, total it up, take out, overestimate for taxes.
Overestimate for food provided.
And you see some fighters get paid $20,000 and you go, that don't sound like 53%. Now, it also doesn't sound like 8%.
No.
But like most professional sports organizations, which I've talked about on this clip, and I'll leave it in the links. I'm not sure if anybody watched it, though. Most professional sports organizations have 51-49 split or 50-50, and some 52-48. And when I'm talking about the NBA, the collective bargaining agreements, and Major League Baseball, where the TV money, and literally pay-per-view buys, the TV money and the TV deals that come in for stuff like Fox Sports 1 for UFC Fight Night 24, the Ultimate Fighter finale, stuff like that, they have to split it because it can't, or it really should never, all go to Ari Emanuel. First of all, the guy's got enough money as it is. Second of all, Dana White doesn't deserve more than 50%, or at least the people who work for Dana White, than the fighters, because it's a two-way street and it's always been. Yes, I will always side with the fighters. I will always side with the athletes. I'll always side with the basketball players. I'll always side with the players in any sport until I eventually hopefully own a team, and then I will side with the owners. That's the joke. My point being, they put on the show, but you still do need the business, the structure of it, to grow it. As much as Demetrius Johnson is one of the pound-for-pound greatest fighters of all time, he alone can't grow the UFC. And that card alone can't grow the UFC without promotion, without certain lessons that I do feel at least the UFC has learned from boxing and what not to do.
Yeah.
Last note, I'm sorry, go.
Well, I think it's a catch-22 for Dana White, and this is the thing. You just mentioned the point I was actually going to reference is, what would you rather? Would you rather fighters coming together with an organization that look to try and get their fair piece of the pie, or would you rather promoters get involved in the whole thing and they just take solely what they want for their fighters, which is going to cloud what fight is actually the one that should be that we should see compared to the fight that's going to make them the most money, as we see in boxing, and a ridiculous amount of just non-needed fights happen because the promoters want to fill their pockets rather than looking to try and take their fighter, give them a title shot, set them forward in their career to try and reach their potential. No, the promoters suffocate boxing, and Dana White really needs to understand that, yeah, he's built a fantastic, will help build a fantastic system that gives us the fights we want to see. In boxing, there's no way you see a McGregor-Diaz 1 and 2 in the space of, 6-7 months. No chance in hell.
We haven't seen Alvarez versus Golovkin.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't seen 1. We haven't seen Golovkin-Alvarez 1.
So,
let alone 2
I think
or 3.
Dana White needs to be given some respect for that, but at the same time, it's a catch-22, and what I mean is that as your business grows, you got to try and continue to keep your employees happy, or they're going to find alternate means to try and make that moolah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that one. Lastly, just to show you how hard the UFC is coming for 2017, and man, are they going to set more records next year. Demetrius Johnson's fight against Tim Elliott, who was the winner of The Ultimate Fighter. Actually a 5-round good fight when nobody had Tim Elliott. Obviously no one had Tim Elliott because Demetrius Johnson is Demetrius Johnson, one of the pound-for-pound greatest. 1.1 million viewers on Fox Sports 1. Wow. 1.1 million viewers that actually beat, and it wasn't a good college football game, but it beat out, I think, the head-to-head on ESPN2, ESPN1 between two, like Wyoming and not great college football. It wasn't the Big Ten championship game, which got like 6 million viewers, but let's just put that in perspective. College football in America on ESPN got 6 million viewers, and Demetrius Johnson on the UFC, a barbaric sport on Fox Sports 1, got 1.1 million. They're coming hard for UFC 2017.
No doubt.
Hard. Coming hard. You heard me correctly. I'm going to get made fun of for that. But we're going to move on. Isn't that right, Ja'Cory?